free agency is past the initial waves, and Brandon Beane has at least tried to be busy to reshape this roster. The only question is it going to be better or just different from seasons past? Tonight, we're going to talk about all of the moves Beane has made so far. Let's talk Bills. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bud Talks Bills. And as we have talked about so far, this was a big offseason for Brandon Beane. Coaching change, salary cap questions, all eyes were on Brandon Beane coming into this offseason. And so far, personally, I think that he has done a great job. We've talked about filling holes on this defense, roster spots, to give us the flexibility come April in the draft to take best player available. One of the players that we have re-signed, I know we talked about it before, but the numbers are finally out on the Conor McGovern extension. It ends up being a 4-year, $52 million contract for $13 million a year AAV. The cap hit for 2026 is only $5.2 million. For as much as Brandon Beane has kind of caught some flack from Bills fans and how he handles the salary cap and some of the moves that he's made in free agency, I think that we have to give him his flowers on this one. Getting Conor McGovern back was very important, regardless of what it was going to be AAV wise. But to get Conor McGovern back for $13 million a year makes him the fourth highest paid center. But in terms of the actual AAV, just days later, Tyler Linderbaum got $27 million a year from Las Vegas. Now, granted, that might be, an overpay and they had to, kind of compete and they had the cash to spend. But a player of Conor McGovern's ability compared to Tyler Linderbaum for less than half the annual salary and cap hits is, kudos to Brandon Beane and Conor McGovern and his team to get that worked out. Also, Mitch Wyshnawski, the punter, was brought back on a 1-year, $1.25 million deal. I think that this is camp competition. Hopefully we can bring in another punter and kind of let them battle it out. I know we've been kind of playing that game for the last couple of years. It would be nice, to have an answer at the punter position. Maybe Wyshnawski can be that if he wins another camp battle this year. We also had some restructures done. We'll start with Spencer Brown. That freed up about $10.5 million. I think that's a safe restructure. We talk about restructures in terms of, yes, if you sign somebody to, a 3, 4, 5-year deal, they're in your long-term plans, but can you see a situation where in 4 years they might not be in your plans? I think that Spencer Brown is a pretty safe restructure in terms of that. Josh Allen might be the safest in terms of that. They converted about $15.2 million. It freed up $12 million in cap space. I know Field Yates had Bills fans, thinking it was $40 million there for a couple minutes. Just 12, but still something. And then Ed Oliver restructuring to save about $10.25 million. I think that speaks to the confidence that this coaching staff has in his role in this new defense under Jim Leonard. Very positive to see that, excited about what he can do in this defense, and saving $10.25 million in cap this year also helps. DJ Moore, they were finally able to get that trade through the contract, get their hands on that, and kind of convert and restructure that. It ends up being a $1.3 million base contract this year. It's actually a $6.7 million cap hit this year. Now that does go to $28 million cap hits over the next 2 years, with a void year in 2029 to kind of spread all of that out. Some questions as to whether that is worth it. I know some Bills fans are upset about the draft capital we had to give up, the amount of money that we're spending. If DJ Moore comes in and is that wide receiver one that Brandon Beane has shown he can trade for, maybe not draft, but trade for, and have the impact that I believe he's going to have on this offense, I think that we can kind of live with that trade off. One more restructure actually ended up being a pay cut as Tyler Bass, dropping his cap hit down to $3 million, coming off of an injury. I think there's going to be some competition with him, competition for him in camp this year. Looking at this contract, yes, it's a $3 million cap hit this year. But he's only got a $1.27 million cap hit next year with over $4 million in savings. If he were to be cut, I think that kind of shows that his spot isn't necessarily totally safe with that pay cut. I think that there will be some competition coming off of an injury. Can he kind of get back to form and earn that job? The last one, restructure, was kind of a polarizing one. Bills fans were kind of all over this player, I think a little unnecessarily. It's not necessarily the player or the role. It was that cap hit. But Brandon Beane was able to work it out with Dawson Knox and work on a restructure, pay cut, extension, however you want to word it. It ends up being 3 years, $20 million on paper, dropping his cap hit from what would have been 17, give or take, $1 million this year to 8.5. $8.5 million, for your tight end too, I think is much easier to swallow than that $17 million cap hit we were looking at this year for Dawson Knox. He's somebody that means a lot to the locker room. Obviously, he's friends with Josh Allen. But I think it keeps together that tight end room that might, be one of the top 2, 3, 4 in the entire league. Huge Dawson Knox fan. He obviously wanted to be in Buffalo. I'm glad that they were able to work it out to keep him in Buffalo while also dropping that cap hit down. There's obviously still some money that we have, that Brandon Beane has, that we have some access to. Pull a couple more levers, push a couple more buttons, and get some more space. With these moves and restructures and extensions, we were able to free up a sizable amount to be able to make some signings outside of our own guys this year. Coming up next, we're going to talk about those guys that we were able to bring into the locker room. Excited about what this defense is going to look like this year under Jim Leonard. So stick with us, guys. Make your event unforgettable with Eagle Creek Rentals. Planning a wedding, graduation party, corporate event, or just a backyard party? Let Eagle Creek Event Rentals bring your vision to life. From our elegant tents, tables, chairs, and even our new portable mini golf, we provide everything you need to create the perfect atmosphere for any occasion. Our team focuses on quality, reliability, and stress-free setup so you can focus on enjoying your event. No event is too big or small. If you can celebrate it, we can help you host it. Tell them that Bud sent you to get 10% off your next order. Call or text 607-283-1580 and ask for Troy for your free quote today. Or you can check us out at EagleCreekEventRentals.com to turn your next event into something truly special. Okay, guys, so we've gone over the guys that we were able to retain, our own guys restructure, get some cap space. Obviously, we do that with the intent of going out and signing some outside guys to bring into this locker room, onto the field, and help our team this year. Our first signing was D. Elford on a 3-year, $15.7 million deal. Now, that deal is worth up to $21 million. Looking at this deal, it is essentially a 1-year team-friendly contract with some outs. There's only a $3.23 million cap hit this year. Excited what he brings. Obviously, this was right on the heels of losing Taron Johnson to Las Vegas, which really left a hole for us there at that nickel spot. There's still some question as to what that role is going to be in this new defensive system under Jim Leonard. Regardless, there is a need for, nickelbacks in the NFL under any scheme. D. Elford is somebody that brings a lot of speed, coverage ability, inside outside flexibility, has some return experience as well. And really his journey, I think, going from undrafted to the CFL, kind of overlooked in Atlanta, fighting his way. I think that seeing some of his former teammates talk about him is pretty exciting to get somebody like that in this locker room. I think that he's going to connect with a lot of Bills fans and end up being, a Bills Mafia fan favorite. Certainly looking forward to the athleticism that he's going to bring. All around good guy, just on the surface at least, and really excited to see what Jim Leonard can do with him in that slot position. The next one, maybe a little more controversial, CJ Gardner Johnson on a 1 year up to $6 million. It is only a $2.4 million cap hit for 2026. There is 2 void years added into this, $1 million in dead cap in 2027, 500,000 in 2028. Now, this is somebody that, we've talked about maybe in a different, regime and coaching structure under Sean McDermott, maybe, didn't even get the opportunity, to come to Buffalo. There's a lot of connections, that we have. He just played with DJ Moore in Chicago. He's somebody that has certainly proven to wear out his welcome. A lot of teams in a very short amount of time. But he makes plays and he flashes, and maybe he's somebody that, you love to root against, but when you love him when he's on your team. And there's a lot to be made, that's said about the attitude that, the Buffalo Bills defense has had the last couple of years. I don't think it hurts to have a couple of these guys on your team. He's somebody he's going to get under people's skin, not just on Sundays or Mondays, Thursdays, whatever day we're playing, but throughout the week, he's going to practice hard. He's going to push everybody on this roster to get better. And I don't think that I'm too worried about, the attitude and the intensity and aggressiveness that he brings. I think that we have a good amount of, team leadership, from players and Josh Allen and Deion Dawkins and even guys like Terrell Bernard, Christian Benford, guys that have been in that locker room for years. They know what, how to handle that locker room. I'm not too worried about that. I am very excited to see how Jim Leonard can weaponize somebody like CJ Gardner Johnson with that versatility and aggressiveness, kind of just a chess piece that Leonard can really move around and kind of mold into, whatever role he sees, for this defense. I think that it's a very good piece to have, especially in a transition year. Obviously just being a 1 year deal, this defense is going to take some time, to implement from Jim Leonard. And I think that having a vet like CJ Gardner Johnson in a transition year like that, I think I'm excited about, at least. Continuing on with the secondary, Gino Stone on a 1 year, $1.2 million deal. Somebody that played very well in Baltimore years ago, earned a 2 year, $14 million contract with Cincinnati. Maybe didn't live up to that contract, but he was playing in a historically bad defense in Cincinnati. And somebody on the back end, it's kind of hard, to stand out in a defense like that. Makes plays on the ball, 14 interceptions, ball hawking type, deep coverage, safety, very willing tackler, played in the box, a ton for Cincinnati this past year. Does miss some tackles, but I don't think that it's a lack of willingness that he misses those tackles. Maybe sometimes some poor angles or, technique, but he's a willing tackler, can play in the box. Somebody that is just going to be a good piece to move around in that secondary for Jim Leonard. And the last player I want to talk about here on the defense is Bradley Chubb. Now, there was, a lot of talk. Was Buffalo in on Max Crosby? Were they in on Trey Hendrickson? We end up landing on Bradley Chubb, and it's a 3-year, $43.5 million total value contract, only 29 guaranteed. Now the cap hit goes up, the dead cap goes down over the next 3 years. There's a void year in 2029, but looking at this, a $6.5 million cap hit this year, ending with a $20.5 million cap hit in 2028, but only $6 million in dead cap that year. Really kind of a team friendly deal if the injuries play out. There's some injury concern here. He's had some major injuries, multiple ACLs, never any soft tissue lingering, anything that can get you that injury prone tag. But anytime you got somebody missing time, as much time as he has with serious multiple ACL injuries, surgeries, it is concerning. But we are paying him, I believe it's about the 30th or 31st highest paid defensive end in the league. And I think that's a fair value for somebody like Bradley Chubb, especially if he can come in, stay healthy, play opposite of Greg Rousseau. Maybe not your elite type pass rusher, somebody like a TJ Watt or a Myles Garrett, but he's going to play the run. He's gonna get after the passer. If he can stay healthy, I think that this has the opportunity to be one of Brandon Beane's kind of more underrated. Okay, Bills fans are a little worried about it to start. A couple years from now, we could be looking at this contract and be very happy with Bradley Chubb at $20.5 million, a year going into that 2028 season. The defense has had a lot of turnover. I'm excited to see what Jim Leonard can do with the new pieces he has in the secondary, mostly because I thought most of the turnover was going to be up front. We haven't seen a lot of moves at the linebacker position. Bradley Chubb is really the only piece we've addressed on the defensive line with. When you look at the athleticism going from, and I love Jordan Poyer, but at this stage in his career, a Jordan Poyer, a Taylor Rapp, Damar Hamlin, an aging, maybe limited away from the ball, the farther, Taron Johnson got from the line of scrimmage, the more he got exposed, at this stage in his career, and kind of swapping those out with young, fast, aggressive secondary players. I think it's exciting to think of what Jim Leonard can do with that defense, how he can weaponize guys like CJ Gardner Johnson, how we're going to utilize Gino Stone playing deep, all with Cole Bishop, who just made stride after stride last year, and I think exceeded a lot of expectations from people inside the building, and I know a lot of Bills fans. And then you get Maxwell Hairston back, a healthy, hopefully second year. Christian Benford, obviously a dog. The secondary is shaping into something that I'm very, very excited about. Maybe it turns into a conversation of, do we create pressure up front with more of these exotic blitzes, simulated pressures, and we just got secondary guys that are coming from depth on blitzes and bailing out and covering guys one-on-one with, one high safety, ball hawking guy and Gino Stone. Do we rely on more of the coaching and the schematics to get pressure? It's something that, to keep an eye on. I definitely thought that a lot more was going to be invested in, defensive line turnover, linebacker turnover. And we're going to get to some of the guys that we lost here. And there's still some, free agents out there. But definitely excited about where the secondary went in the fact that they chose the secondary to kind of focus on here in the first couple stages of free agency. Some guys that we've lost, quick to touch on them. Mitch Trubisky obviously signed with Tennessee. Love Mitch. Maybe a little bit better chance to get on the field there in Tennessee behind Cam Ward. David Edwards went out and just absolutely balled out the last 2 years, earned that contract in New Orleans. Cam Lewis signing a 1-year deal with Chicago. I think Bears fans will absolutely love Cam Lewis does it all, can play safety, can play the slot, special teams, hard nose, plays football the right way. Bears fans got a good one with him. The one that really hurts is Reggie Gilliam signing with New England. It's going to hurt rooting against Reggie, 2 times a year, for the next 3 years. Patriots fans, treat him well. We love Reggie. Wish you nothing but the best, except for when you play against Buffalo. And then also we had some flat out releases of guys like Taylor Rapp, Dane Jackson, and Curtis Samuel. I think that with all, the losses that we just went over, the guys that we were able to retain, and then the guys that we were able to sign outside in free agency, it goes to the point that I talked about with Brandon Beane of just trying to, fill in some of these holes, get the roster, looking as complete as he can going into this draft in April, giving us some flexibility to take best player available. And I think that with what he was, given, maybe what his options and opportunities were, I think Brandon Beane is really off to a strong start in this offseason, and I'm excited to see what he does next. Getting to that next, we are going to go over some of the remaining free agents that I still hope that we can bring into Buffalo and have an impact on our team this year. So as we talked about trying to fill in some of these gaps still on the roster, I'm really surprised that we haven't seen the defensive line addressed yet. Now, we've missed out on some guys, but there's a couple guys still out there, most notably DJ Reader, guys like Andrew Billings. I know that Foley Fatukasi has missed some time with injury, but he's another run stuffing, defensive tackle, nose tackle. And somebody that our guy Joe Marino has talked about, Calais Campbell. I think that would be a fun signing. I'm not sure that I would be excited about what it would mean for the team this year. But anytime you can have a guy like Calais Campbell on your team, I get the excitement behind that. DJ Reader, I think, would be a great fit. Somebody to pair, with Deon Walker in the middle of that defense, maybe give Deon Walker some flexibility to move, up and down the defensive line as well in different situations. Andrew Billings as well, kind of that same boat there. Now, 2 guys that are on that list, one in particular, Daquan Jones, Buffalo, a Buffalo unrestricted free agent. I think he fits the role that the Buffalo's looking for in that scheme, kind of that alternate to Deon Walker in the middle, play the run a little tougher, maybe be more of an anchor than we've seen from Deon Walker. The question with him was value, and if we can get him back in a contract that would make sense for Buffalo. There's been some stuff on social media. Who knows if Daquan Jones is even open to coming back to Buffalo. And then another one, Larry Ogunjobi. I say that mostly for fun because I hope that there's no future with Larry Ogunjobi on this Bills roster again. Some other interesting names there at linebacker, Matt Milano and Shaq Thompson. Huge Matt Milano fan. Would love to see him back in Buffalo if it makes sense contract-wise. Just somebody that, again, kind of like the Taron Johnson, the Jordan Poyer, moves that we've seen the past couple of years. Just a sentimental. You want to hold on to him. Never want to see him in another uniform. It'll be interesting to see how they see Matt Milano fitting into this defense and if they can make it work money-wise. Shaq Thompson also still available, has played in a 3-4, came on hot at the end of the year, was probably our best linebacker for most of the year, still available. And then somebody that I really want to keep an eye on, I think would be a great fit in this defense is Germaine Pratt, formerly of Cincinnati, played with Indianapolis. Just somebody that I'm excited about and I'm kind of surprised that he's still available at this point in free agency. Those are the 2 position groups that I would keep an eye on in this final stage of free agency before the draft. I've thought all along that Brandon Beane was going to want to, get a roster as complete as possible so he can go in April, best player available, and we have not addressed those two position groups yet. I think that there's still some guys out there. Like I said, Germaine Pratt, Matt Milano, Shaq Thompson at linebacker. You even got Bobby Wagner. If you can try to make that work on a 1-year kind of transition type deal. DJ Reader, Andrew Billings, Calais Campbell, Daquan Jones, maybe even Foley Fatukasi at defensive tackle to kind of play that opposite of Deion Walker nose tackle. I think that we're going to see a couple more signings before the draft. I think that the amount of Bills defensive UFAs that are still available kind of says something about the talent turnover that we're going to have this year. There's still some moves to make. We still have more money to clear. We can restructure Deion Dawkins, Osiris Torrance. There's still some moves that we can make, to get some money back in our pocket. We got the draft coming up. We're going to start narrowing down some of the prospects to really look at. Hopefully there's a few more signings in free agency. We'll get back on if there is any more news in free agency. And then once we're done narrowing down our prospects for the draft, obviously we'll be talking a little closer to April, much more. It's been fun talking. Look forward to the next time if we can get together, and I'll leave you with Go Bills.